Our email address is marketfoolery@fool.com. Question from Sam Horn in Boston, where it's about to become very cold. Sam writes, one of the first dozen of listeners here. I've noticed you guys have not mentioned L Brands over the past year, but have touched on other victims in the retail apocalypse. Would love to hear your thoughts on the long-term ability to invest in fashion/brands. Thanks. Thank you, Sam, for that. What a coincidence, because actually on our schedule to discuss today, L Brands reporting third quarter results. This is the parent company of Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works. And whatever nice things showed up in the third quarter report were overshadowed by the fact that L Brands announced it's cutting its dividend in half. That's a little surprising.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to tell you what the good things are that showed up in the third quarter, given that
versus expectations.
They lost money. They had part of that was due to massive write-offs for two things. One, they are eliminating Henry Bendel, or maybe it's Henri Bendel.
You can pronounce it however you want.
You can get in trouble for pronouncing things wrong on this show. You've done it.
Sure.
Mostly with Swedish, your Swedish pronunciations.
Yeah, I struggle there.
Yeah. So that's a charge, and a secondary charge, actually a much larger charge, is the $80 million, although it is non-cash, impairment charge related to the Victoria's Secret store assets. So that indicates that they have spent money building stores, and they now have to write down some of those costs because it doesn't look like they're going to recoup the investment on certain store investments. So this is a problem. They're taking charges, acknowledging that they've misallocated capital, and they're shutting down a brand that was not a huge part of the business, but still not a good sign. And they generally had more so, the weakness is really in the Victoria's Secret brand more than elsewhere. For the third quarter, comps were down 2%, and that is the largest chunk of the business. Comps were up 13% at Bath and Body Works, which I'm sure we'll get to, and that's a better side of the story. But the long-term trend is that the Victoria's Secret is not resonating with its customers.
I was going to say that in terms of bright spots, certainly the Bath and Body Works results looked good. They raised guidance for the full fiscal year. That's, theoretically a bright spot. Bath and Body Works. So this has come up in the past because they, and maybe it was just about a year ago, or maybe it was just after the holidays, when we were talking about their large 3-wick candles and the unusual scents that they have. Because, I've talked about the people at the Oreo division of Mondelez being drunk with power, and I think to a smaller degree, whoever is green lighting the various scents of candles at Bath and Body Works, they're just saying yes to everything.
Yeah, you could just go back and replay rather than us revisiting
right.
our thoughts on sweater weather and black tie and
peppered suede,
flannel.
Would you like a flannel scented candle?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
if you set flannel
texture.
If you set flannel on fire, that's usually probably not a great smell.
And you're actually packing some peppermint suede right next to you.
Peppered suede. One of the dozens sent in a peppered suede candle. But here, to go back to
really, when you're having some suede, and you think like this could do with a little more pepper,
right? Now
they've done it for you.
Yes, you're welcome.
You
America.
don't want to have any suede that is
bland.
Yeah.
So when we had talked about this before, we were talking about the different scents, but also the fact that this candle, which is nearly a pound in weight. And
in some states you have to register that.
Yeah, this is a blunt object.
Yeah.
In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if this showed up in a police report somewhere where not that it burned down the house.
Not that we're advocating that.
Not that we're advocating that. I'm just saying that if you wanted to use this as a weapon,
you have to defend yourself, if somebody's an intruder, have a couple of, Bath and Body Works 3-wick candles on hand, and you got a better chance of getting out of that situation.
So one of the things that I sort of took the company to task for was the fact that, okay, you've got these unusual scents, but also you're selling this candle for nearly $30. They were selling these candles for $27, and I just thought, well, come on, you're not going to get me interested in that. It's like someone just posted in the Motley Fool podcast group on Facebook that the good people at Pringles came out with a creative box of Thanksgiving dinner flavored Pringles, which you could get me interested in that, but not if it's $15 a box, which is what they're doing. It's like, come on, Pringles, I'll try your novelty flavors, but you got to make it attractive from a price point standpoint. Well, it's entirely possible someone at Bath & Body Works was listening to that podcast, because you go to their website, bathandbodyworks.com, and immediately you're bombarded with the candles. Mm-hmm. They're less than half the price they were a year ago. Yeah. So now
they're so cheap you can't afford not to buy them.
Exactly. And creative scents like Merry Cookie, Fresh Balsam, Twisted Peppermint. I don't know what makes my hunch is that peppermint and Twisted Peppermint probably have similar scents, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Champagne Toast.
Twisted Peppermint's got a little bit more of an edge to it, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's the edgy one. It's a good-looking rebel candle that plays by its own rules. Vanilla Snowflake, Fireside. Although I don't think you want to put a large candle right next to the fire.
Here's a challenging one.
Okay.
Wine cellar.
You tell me wine cellar, and I think musty.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think that cellar is one of those things that connotes a good smell.
No, not really.
Not any of the cellars that I've ever owned.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that have ever appeared in movies. There's never been a time where you're watching a movie and they go down to the cellar and you think to yourself as a viewer, I bet that smells delightful.
No, you better be armed with a candle if you're going to go down to the wine cellar that's in a movie, because there's usually trouble down there.
You know what? We're poking a little bit of fun at Bath & Body Works in the wake of a third quarter where it was by far so much better from a business standpoint than Victoria's Secret was.
Yeah, well, I think it's that part of that reason is that for us to go into the details of what is sold at Victoria's Secret is just a danger zone that we should stay away from.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that, and frankly, this is more fun.
Yeah,
this is a lot more fun to just talk about wine cellar as a scent.
But to go to the numbers, for which we can do without getting into too much trouble.
Okay.
Victoria's Secret. So the comp sales for the whole brand were down 2%. They were in store. They were down 6%, which is another data point about the reduced attractiveness of having a lot of mall-based stores. And that is what Victoria's Secret is largely saddled with. And on top of that, they have a couple of announced departures, and the Victoria's Secret CEO is departing. That's not the L Brands CEO is another individual, but the Victoria's Secret CEO is a very, very important part of the company, and she's departing. And so that is yet another thing on top of the dividend cut and the decreased comps. And it's just I don't know where the good news is in here. And this is something which a couple of years ago I think you could have said, well, what fashion brand do you have more confidence in just continually getting it right and not missing the fashion trend and where things are going, because that happens to all fashion brands sooner or later, and now including this one. They're just on the wrong side of where their customers want to shop.
One last scent on the Bath & Body Works candles, and I'm not really sure what this is. There's a scent entitled "'Tis the Season." There you go. 'Tis the season.